All right, so let's keep going. We're on a streak right here. So we're on question number 25. 25 we can do. So this is part two of the August 2024 Regents. So for this one, pretty straightforward, okay? So we're going to go to our calculator. We're going to type in exactly what the question says, and we're going to hit graph. And since it says graph and not sketch, you cannot just go, ta-da! You cannot do that, okay? You have to actually go to the calculator and you have to go to the table. My calculator froze and it's back. Okay. You have to go to the table. So you have to hit second graph and you have to plot points. So 0, 3.2. 0, 3.2. We're going to estimate that. Okay. Do we have any other pretty good points? Let's see. So I'm going to keep going over here. Okay. So I don't have any whole numbers. Is that a problem? No, not a problem. Um, but let's see what we do have. Something that we can plot. Okay. So those numbers are huge. All right. So we're going to have to do the best we can right now. We can probably plot from 2. This is 2, 10.368. So let's see. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.368. So somewhere around there. So that's 2 points. You see what we're doing here? We're getting pretty precise. So 1, 5.76, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.76. Okay. So you're going to keep doing this. And you're going to keep plotting. Okay. So -1, that looks like 1.8. So -1, 1.8. Keep going. -3.54. You have to plot every single point? You try to plot as many as you can. So -3.5487. -3.5487. Cool. Let's keep going. So -4.3. -4.3. You see what's happening? So we're getting close to the x-axis, and if you keep going, you'll see that it gets pretty small. -6.09. So -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.09, right? I'm getting even closer to that x-axis. Okay. And then now what you're going to do is you're going to do a better job than me. But you're going to connect those points into as straight a line as you possibly can. Oh, it jumped. That you possibly can. I don't know where that came from. Okay. And you're going to draw arrows here, and you're going to show that you know that it does not cross the x-axis. Okay. So the key thing here is it can never come. I'm going to do what's wrong. This is wrong. You cannot go like, ta-da. It never will cross the x-axis. So as long as you show that you understand that it gets very close to the x-axis, but it doesn't cross it, you should be in good shape. And arrows at the end of the lines, always. Okay. That would earn you 2 out of 2 points, which is good. Okay. This one, question 26, is another one that you can do. Is x plus 3 a factor? So you could long divide here. I would strongly advise against that because watch, remainder theorem again, right? -3, -3. So this cancels out, but you got to show work. So x equals -3. And then we're going to take -3. You see what I'm doing? We're going to store it into x. So -3 goes into x, and then you're going to plug it into 7. You're going to show that you know that every single x is going to get a -3 there. So plus 27. See what I'm doing? I'm taking this, and wherever you see x's, I'm putting in -3. -3 squared plus 9 times -3. And then I pull up my calculator, and I do the same thing. Right? So you could do the store. So -3 store it in for x, hit enter, and then plug in the original. And what I'm doing as I'm writing this line is I'm just trying to show the person who's grading me that I know what I'm doing. So to the third, you could put that line in, or you could just plug in the original 2x squared, but make sure you have stored the -3 in first, minus 27. Now look, when you hit enter, you want to see if it's a factor. If you get any other number besides 0, the answer to this is no. If you get 0, boom, that means that x plus 3 is a factor. um, equals 0. Okay, so x plus 3 is a factor because the remainder is 0. And that is enough to get those 2 points. Okay. For this one, it says over the set of integers, factor it. Keyword here is completely. That means that you're going to have to do more than just stop at the first step. In all of these, you can see that there is an x. So I'm going to take that x and I'm going to pull it out or factor it out. So 2x to the fourth divided by x is 2x to the third. I take 1x out minus 10x squared, because again, I take 1x out from here, plus 3x minus 15. All right, cool. Now, because it said completely, I know I'm not done yet. So what I have to do here is I have to split, because I have 4 terms, and I'm going to factor the left and I'm going to factor the right. So between here, what are the common factors? 2 and x squared, right? There's 2 that goes into 2 and 10. And between x to the third and x to the second, the smaller number is 2. So now I have to write down what's left. X minus 5 is what's left. I do the same thing on this side. What's common here? I can even cheat a little bit, right? I know x minus 5 has to go here. So what has to come out in the front? 3. So now the x minus 5s get pulled out once, x minus 5, and then everything else, which is the 2x squared and the 3, 2x squared plus 3, has to go in the other bubble. Problem, okay? I forgot this x that I had to bring along down. So this whole thing has an x in front of it, and this whole thing has an x in front of it. So I need to put that. This right here is my answer, okay? Don't forget to put that x, otherwise you'll get it wrong. All right, question 28. I can teach you this in about a minute. If you care, let me know. But right now, it's not in units 1, 2, 3. This is also not in units 1, 2, 3. So we're going to flip that, skip that. This one we definitely did do. All right. This is the lesson that was in unit 2 or 3. All right. Half-life. I believe it was in 3. So this is an exponential thing. So it contains 130 milligrams of caffeine. That's how much it starts with. And there is a half-life, which means that the decay is going to be by a half. It's going to, dwindle by a half. Cool. And it says the half-life is 5.5 hours. So this is our, call this H is 5.5. Some people call it K, whatever you want to call it. So we want to write a function. So C of T is equal to, how much are we starting with? 130. What is this growing or decaying by? Half life. So we're going to put a half here. Cool. And then the variable is T. T stands for time in hours. But then you have to divide it by whatever the half-life is, right? And it tells you that the half-life is 5.5 hours. So every 5.5 hours, it's going to get cut in half. So that means that our time is going to have to be divided by 5.5. This whole thing right here is your answer for the 2 points. Done. This one, 31. Long distance walker in one race he walked 55. Cool. So we want to determine the number of hours that each of the 2 races took. So all you have to do for this one is set them equal to each other. So we have 55 over t is equal to 65 over t plus 3. And it's, how do I know to set them equal to each other? It says walked in equivalent rate, equivalent. So how do I solve this? I cross multiply here. 55 times t plus 3 is equal to 65t. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this, right? This distributes, so I get 55t plus 55 times 3 is 165 is equal to 65t. Cool. I want to get all the t's on one side, so I'm going to do minus 55t minus 55t. This is not hard. So I have 165 is equal to 10t. Divide everything by 10, and I get 16.5 is equal to t. Okay. Is that what they want us to find? It says determine the number of hours that each of the two races took. So in one race, he walked 55 miles in T hours. So we found that out. In the other race, he walked 65 miles in T plus 3. So we want to also find T plus 3 hours. So 16.5, I know I wrote that horribly, plus 3 is 19.5. So these are our two answers. You need two answers, the T time and the T plus 3 time. All right. Um, this next one, 32. So we want to solve algebraically for this and using the, yeah, so, and it says using an A plus BI form. This point right now, I know I cannot do AM method because there's no two numbers that add to be 3 and multiply to be 11. So you have to use quadratic formula here. The quadratic formula is on your formula booklet. Negative B, this is a story about a negative boy who missed out on who got a choice to go to a party, a radical party, but the boy was a square, missed out on 4 awesome chicks, and the party was all over at 2 a.m. Okay, so this is what x is equal to. So let's figure out what is our a, b, and c. Our a is the number in front of this x squared, which is 1. Our b is the number that's in front of the x, which is 3. And our C is the number that's chilling by itself, which is 11. So as long as it's in standard form, you can find your A, B, and C pretty easily. So now all we have to do is plug it in. So x is equal to negative B, which is negative 3, plus or minus the square root of B, which is 3, squared, should put that 3 in parentheses, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 11. And this is all over 2 times 1. Okay. So if you take what's under the radical and you put it into the calculator, you're going to get negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 35 all over 2. All right. But it says put it in A plus BI form, which means that over here, this splits up, right? There's an I that comes out because there's a negative under the radical. This is radical 7 times radical 5. None of these can be simplified. So what does that mean? That means that you relieve your answer as negative 3, right? See this negative 3 over 2? Negative 3 over 2 plus or minus. The square root of negative 35 stays as radical 35. Bring out the I all over. And this gets divided by 2 as well. So now this is in A plus BI form. So negative 3 over 2 plus or minus radical 35i over 2, or you can write it as negative 3 over 2 plus or minus I rad 35 all over 2. Either answer would work. You do not need to put both of them. All right. Question 33. So these are now worth 4 points. These 4 questions are worth 4 points. Okay. This question you should 100% get correct. This is on average rate of change. This is our first lesson of the year. We're only looking between 1950 and 2020. So 1950 and 2020. But problem, those numbers are not here. Yes, they are, because it says X is the number of years since 1900. So subtract 1900 from each of these, right? We're looking at 50. So we want this right here. This is for what we're doing is this is population of India. Okay. And then we have to subtract 1900 here. So 2020 minus 1900, what is that? Is 2020 minus 1900. Let's see. 120. Of course it is, right? So this is going to be 120. So again, that's for India, right? So let's find, since we're dealing with the table, let's do that. So for India, we have to do y2 minus y1. This is our formula for average rate of change, right? x2 minus x1. So let's do it. Our y2, here's our x1, x2, here's our y1, y2. So y2 is 1380 minus 376.3. all over 120 minus 50. And what does that equal? Put that into the calculator and you get about 14.3. All right, so that's for India. Now we have to do the same thing for China, right? Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. But where is China's information? Do they give us anything? Yes, they do. Okay, they give us this. So let's use it, right? So we'll go to our table, go to y equals, let's clear what's there, and let's plug in our function. So we have 316.93. E is above the ln, so second ln. And then it's 0.0133x. And then now we go to our table. So all the numbers that I'm looking for are 50 and 120. So let's hit second window. I'm going to go 50. I'm going to hit second graph. So I have for China, let me just go ahead and write this down. So across from 50, I have some crazy number, 616.27. 616.27. And you'll see on the bottom of the calculator, it says 16.267. So if you want to get more precise, you could, for sure. And then we want to also find 120 for 120. So second window, let's change that to 120. Hit enter, go to second graph, and then across from 120 is a different number. So 120 comma, let's write down this one. This is 1563.5. 1563.5. And again, if you were to go over to that number, you would see the exact number, which sometimes would definitely be necessary. All right, so now here you could label x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you could put these numbers in, right? So 1563.5, and again, if you want to get more exact, minus 16.27 all over 120 minus 50. And if you were to put this into the calculator, you would get about 13.5. Now let's answer the question. I just want to see something real quick over here. I want to make sure I did something. See over here, you see how it says, is x plus 3 a factor? You have to write the word yes. Yes, it is a factor. All right. I'm sorry. Just had a brain fart. Because you have to make sure you actually answer the questions. All right. So over here, it says, which country's population had a greater average rate of change? Which one is greater, 14.3 or 13.5? India, right? India had it, and it says justify your answer. So justify means that you can use math. If it said explain, then you would have to use English, and you would have to write because India's rate of change is 14.3 over the years from 1950 to 2020, and China's is 13.5. 14.3 is higher. 14.3 is higher than 13.5. That's your justification. Here's all your work, okay? Question 34, we have not touched this yet. This is not hard by any means, but we have not touched it. Question 35, we have done questions like this, so let's do it. Is f of x an even function? So how do we know what an even function is? Remember, even function is graphs that are symmetrical with respect to the y, meaning that if you fold it along the y-axis, they look exactly the same. That's what an even function is. So let's take y equals 2 to the x, and let's graph it. So I'm going to just second plus 7, no, let's quit out of this. I'm just going to reset my calculator, 712. Remember, every time you reset the calculator, you should set your mode into A plus BI form and turn your stat diagnostics on. But let's not worry about that right now. A plus BI form, I think, is the biggest thing. All right, so consider the function. So we have y equals, and we're going to do 2 to the x, and we're going to hit graph. So do you see that function? If you fold it along the y-axis, does that look exactly the same on the left and the right? And I'm going to say that because the graph looks like this, if I fold it along the y-axis, there's nothing that looks like this and like that. So I'm going to say that the answer to that is no. It is not an even function. So we're going to say that no, not an even function. And we can say because it is not symmetrical. Look at me using math words. With respect to the y-axis. Or you could say because when I fold it along the y-axis, it is not the same or symmetrical. Okay, so this is me justifying my answer. Write an equation for g of x, the function that results after f of x is shifted up 5 units. So you could write g of x is equal to f of x plus 5. That's one answer. Okay, that is not as common as here's f of x, right? So g of x is equal to 2 to the x plus 5. It just says shifted up 5 units. So you're just adding 5 to it. All right. All right. And then the last part, it says find the equation for h of x, the inverse of g of x. So a lot of that is reading. So we're going to write g of x down and we're going to find the inverse. So g of x is 2 to the x plus 5. We're going to write g of x as y equals 2 to the x plus 5. And inverse means you take x and y and literally switch them. So the y becomes an x and the x becomes a y. Cool. So technically, you'd be done. Once you did that, you're done. Okay. But if you wanted to get the y by itself, cool, you could. So what I'm writing here is optional, but you should pay attention in case you need to know how to do this. So subtract 5 from both sides. So x minus 5 is equal to 2 to the y. This again, right, we have the exponent, the variable in the exponent. So to get rid of it, we have to base it, log base. So the base is 2. The answer is x minus 5. So I'm going to write x minus 5 here, right? Here's our answer. Here's our exponent. Remember, we're going to bay it, bay. So this is base. This is the answer. And the answer to a log is the exponent. So the exponent is y. So now we have y equals log base 2 of x minus 5. So you could write this, or you could have stopped at this point right here. Either one works. Okay. All right. So that was that question. 36. We've also done this. You've done this in Algebra 1, but I'm going to show you how to do this. This can be a pretty long problem, but it's all good. So we're going to get one of the variables by itself. Usually since we get y by itself, we could do that. So you subtract x from both sides. So negative y is equal to negative x plus 6, or 6 minus x, same thing. Divide both sides or multiply by negative 1. So you get y is equal to, this flips the sign, x minus 6. Cool. So now that we have y equals x minus 6, wherever we see a y in this problem, we're going to substitute x minus 6. So we have x minus 4 squared plus, and instead of that y, we're going to put x minus 6. Don't forget this minus 1. We're going to square that is equal to 9. Okay. All right. So now x minus 4 squared plus x minus 6 minus 1 is x minus 7 squared is equal to 9. Now you have to multiply. So x minus 4 times x minus 4 plus, and then do the same thing here, x minus 7, x minus 7. Set this equal to 9. So we're going to, you see how much space they gave us? We're going to get x squared minus 8x plus 16. When you FOIL that out, you're going to get x squared minus 14x plus 49. When you FOIL that out, is equal to 9. Cool. X squared and the x squared gives us 2x squared. Negative 8x and negative 14 gives us what? Negative 22x. Is that right? I hope. 16 and 49. And you add that. What are you going to get? I have no idea. Let's see. 16 plus 49. Okay. So we're going to get 65 plus 65 is equal to 9. So we're going to subtract 9 from both sides because we're going to get one side equal to 0. You see the theme here? So 2x squared minus 22x plus 56 equals 0. I see that everything goes into 2, so you can divide everything by 2 and you can get x squared minus 11x plus 28 is equal to 0. And then you're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 28 and that add to give us negative 11. What are they? 7 and 4. Looks like it works. They both have to be negative because they have to add to be negative 11. So x minus 7 and x minus 4 equals 0. Flip the sign so you get x equals 7 and 4. Okay, so here's our answers, right? We have 7, 4, and now we have to find, because in the problem, we have x's and y's. So we are given our x's. How do we find our y's, right? X equals 7 and x equals 4. So we're going to take it and plug it into, it's easier to plug it into the second one. So we have x, which is 7, minus y is equal to 6. How do I get the y by itself, right? 7 minus something that gives me 6, y is equal to 1. So my coordinate is going to be 7, comma 1. That's one of them. All right, now do the same thing for the 4, right? I have 4 minus y is equal to 6, right? When you solve this, you're going to get y is equal to negative 2. If you're not sure why, this is plus y, no pun intended. So you get 4 is equal to y plus 6. Subtract 6 from both sides, cancels out, and you get y equals negative 2. Okay, so the second answer is going to be 4, comma, negative 2. That's a comma. All right, so I'm going to write that down at the bottom, 7, comma, 1, and 4, comma, negative 2. These are my two answers, and you could check it by plugging it in to both of them to make sure. All right, last question. This question is worth 6 points. All right, so we've done something like this in Delta Math, and there are two types of compounding. There's compounding quarterly and compounding continuously. So we have two functions. We have a of t is equal to, and remember, when it's compounding continuously, we're going to use the formula a pert. When it's compounding any other way, we're going to use a equals p, parentheses 1 plus r over n to the nt power. Okay. So this right here, the 1200 is how much we're starting with for both of them. The 6.4%, this is our rate, and then this is our rate. All right, so let's see what we could do to plug this in. So let's do A of T first. So America's Bank offers, so it's 1200 and it's compounded quarterly. So we're going to use this formula. Okay, so I'm going to do parentheses 1 plus. So my R for America's Bank is 6.4%, which is the same thing as 0.064. Remember, move the decimal 2 places to the left. So I have 0.064 on the top divided by, and it's compounded quarterly. So that means that n is equal to 4 here. So I'm going to put 4 on the bottom. Whatever goes there goes here on the top. And I'm going to use t to represent my time in years. So that's my A of t. For B of t, for Barnyard Bank, okay, still starts at 1200. That's my P. Then I always use E. The rate is 6.35%, which is 0.0635. So I'm going to do 0.0635, and then I'm going to use T. Pretty simple. So now it tells us Taylor wants to invest 1200 into one bank for 10 years, making no additional deposits. So A of 10, I'm going to plug in 10 wherever the t is here. So that's just a calculator question. When you plug that into the calculator, you're going to get, and this is not exactly, but let's do it. I know we've done this enough that I probably don't need to show it to you, but I'll show it to you anyway. So 1200 parentheses 1 plus, and then alpha y equals, to get our fraction, so 0.064. On the bottom, I'm going to put a 4. Go to the right, close it to the 4 times 10. You see what I'm doing? And then I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to get an answer. So this is about $2,264.28. $2,264.28. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for Barnyard Bank, B of 10. So when I put the 10 in here, I'm going to get about $2,264.43. Okay. So it says, which bank will Taylor earn the most money? Remember, we have to answer our questions. So she will earn the most money with Barnyard. So Barnyard will give her the most money. All right. And remember, we have to answer the question. Justifying it by using our work right here, we should be good. All right. So next, last part. Taylor chooses to invest her money in Barnyard. Okay. So that's the 1200 e to the 0.0635t. Determine how long to the nearest tenth it will take her to triple, the investment to triple. So what is that? What does that mean? 1200, right? We are going to take this and we are going to times it by 3. Triple. So that is 3600. That's how much we want it to be at the end. 3600. Okay, cool. So how do we do this? We want to get, just like before, we want to get our weird thing by itself. This is our weird thing. How do we get rid of the 1200? Divide both sides by 1200. Divide by 1200. Okay, this cancels out. So we get e to the 0.0635t is equal to 3. Can you tell it's getting near the end? Okay, my handwriting is getting very sloppy. The opposite of e is ln. So we're going to ln the left, ln the right. As soon as the ln and the e are next to each other, I'm going to grab my red marker. They cancel out. So now I have 0.0635t is equal to ln of 3. How do we get my t by itself? Divide both sides by 0.0635. Divide by 0.0635. This cancels out. So now I get t is about 17.3. So how long to the nearest tenth of a year? 17.3 years is going to be my answer. And we're done. 33 minutes. All right. Good job. I'm proud of you for sticking with it. Hopefully you took a break in the meantime. But that, if you know part 1 and part 2, the questions that we've done just from units 1, 2, and 3, that would be an 86. Good job.